Good evening, future graduates, almost near graduates. I'm Doug Goodwin. I'm the Executive Director of the Fort Lauderdale campus. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker tonight. Scott Major is a successful attorney, author, and motivational coach. He has handled very significant plaintiff and defense cases in multiple states, representing individuals to multi-billion-dollar companies, representing individuals and even an entire country. He has also trained thousands of lawyers on a multitude of legal topics. He has over 150 case summaries, articles, and lectures to his credit. He has taught and lectured at numerous law schools, PhD programs, graduate and undergraduate programs. He has given over 100 presentations on a variety of topics, and we are very privileged to have him here with us this evening. I'd like to introduce you tonight to our guest speaker.
You have succeeded in achieving your degree. That's a remarkable success in itself. Bask in the glory of this success and utilize it as a launching pad for future personal and professional success. Whether you're continuing in your education or moving out into the business world, the power of education is an awesome energizer. It has changed the world in so many ways. It has advanced our life. It has increased our ability to be happy. It has served to empower us and others and provided you with a wonderful gift of opportunity. But what will you do with that gift of opportunity? Whether you go out into your scholastic endeavors or you go out into the job force, will you use your courage to empower yourself and others? Will you make a difference in the world? What will you do to make a difference? You know, in terms of living your life in a happy way, John Lennon said it best when he said, "When I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be, and I said happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life." How you succeed and how you will succeed will be defined by what you do. How you live your life will be governed by how you process and you think and how you feel. How will you think? Begin with the reality that you are somebody, that you matter, that you make a difference, that you can have an impact on this world, and that with your degree, you command an awesome power. Know that you control the way you feel. Start with positivity. Take the time to truly revel in today's success and what it means in terms of the opportunity for greater happiness and personal and professional success. Utilize today as a launching pad for increased positive and success-based forward thinking. There are many words to describe success, but if I had to pick one, I'd say it's courage. The courage to stay true to yourself. The courage to always view things positively. The courage to have total commitment with an impatience with mediocrity. And the courage to have integrity and character. Let's talk about each. The courage to stay true to yourself. Doing what you love. Being happy. Being fearless. Knowing that you matter. You know, here, I think you should follow the advice of Ellen DeGeneres, who said, stay true to yourself. Never follow anyone else's path. Unless, of course, you're in the woods and you're lost and you see a path, and by all means, in that case, you should follow it. And believe in yourself because you matter. If you think you're too small to be effective, you've never been in bed with a mosquito. And don't be fearful. You know, it's impossible to live our lives without failing at something. Unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. The biggest mistake is to continually fear that you will make one. As a famous president once said, I'd rather give my life than be afraid of it. Do not feel failure, setback, or obstacle before you, as it will merely sharpen your awareness of what you exactly need. It will reveal the opportunity for greater growth, adjusted thinking, more precise knowledge of who you are, what makes you tick, and what will bring you success. Remember that obstacles don't inhibit progress. Confidence does. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. And by the way, keep smiling, because it'll make people wonder what you're up to. Next, the courage to always view things positively, knowing that the way you think will certainly impact the way you feel and act. And I'm reminded of the story, This Is Good. Back in the olden days, a famous kingdom, there was this wonderful king, and he had his right-hand man, John. And John traveled everywhere with him. And John went out hunting with him on his famous hunting trips and gave him good legal advice and advised him of all things kingish. One day when the king was going out hunting, as John would always have it, he would load the weapons so that they would take them out, so all the king would have to do would be to point and shoot, and then John could bring back the treats to the kingdom. One day when they were out there, John was saying, "This is a great day. Isn't this good? Life is great." And the king said, "Yes, it is." And John gave him a gun, and when he went to shoot it, the gun misfired and blew off the king's thumb. Aghast, the king said, "How could you possibly do this to me, John? You're my trusted servant." And John said, "Don't worry, this is good." He said, "How can you say it's good? You blew off my finger. I'm sending you to prison." And he imprisoned John. Fast forward 9 months later, the king is out on one of his many hunts again. This time he's not with his trusted advisor, and he's in the wrong area of town, and he gets kidnapped by cannibals. The cannibals are hoisting him up, putting him on the rotisserie, and about to cook him when they realize he is missing part of a thumb. In the cannibalistic religion, they can't eat you unless you're whole. So they set him free. He comes racing back to the kingdom. He sees John, and John says, "Hey, this is good." He goes, "How can you say it's good? I imprisoned you for 9 months. He said, "Because if I was with you, I'd be dead." Everything is good, and how you assess things and how you look at things will govern the way you live your life. How will you think today? Will you have the courage to embrace a positive attitude to all situations, a solution-oriented attitude that looks at greatness and not at fault, that does not dwell on negativity? And don't think for a moment I don't understand. I know what it's like to go through trial and tribulation. I've had millions and then had them stolen from me. I've had an eye condition that caused blindness. I had to go to law school when I couldn't see. And they said there would never be a cure, and I would never be able to see. And then years, decades later, they found eye transplant surgery, and now I see. Who will you be? How will you approach your life? What will you take as your experiences every day? The next courage is the courage to be impatient with mediocrity, to always give your best, and to understand that what you do will in fact define you. And I remember the story of a good friend of mine who graduates high in school and gets a top job with the Secretary of State. Can't get any better than that. First day on the job, the Secretary of State says to him, "I want you to write a memorandum that will guide me on whether or not I will withdraw the troops. A lot is riding on what you write." Nervous as can be, my friend then goes and researches and spends the entire day, 8 solid hours, and writes a 15-page memorandum explaining what the Secretary of State should do. He places it into the Secretary of State's inbox. He comes back the next day, and on his desk is that memo with a post-it note: "You can do better." Mortified, he then spends the next 3 days, day and night, working, getting on the internet, talking to 3 or 4 congressmen, talking to senators, looking at some of the declassified documents, and creates a 27-page memorandum. And he puts it in that Secretary of State's box, and he comes the next morning at 8 a.m. early so that he can see the Secretary of State. He arrives, and what do you know? On his desk is that same memo with a post-it note saying, "You can do better." He spends the next 3 weeks working day and night, talking to every senator, every congressman, the Armed Forces Committee, He checks classified and declassified documents. He works his butt off all day, all night, every single day of the week. And he writes a 51-page memo. And he schedules an appointment with the Secretary of State, and he says, "Secretary, this is the absolute best possible memo I can write." And the Secretary says, "Okay, now I'll read it." How will you define yourself? Will your best work be that third work? Or will you mail it in? What you do will define you. Another thing is to have the courage to get the negative people out of your life. Tough thing to do, but I have a simple story for you. It's the story of the lizard and the scorpion. The lizard comes to the big, large lake. It's vastly large and has unbelievable amounts of waves. There's alligators and snakes, and the lizard is pondering, I can swim across there, but I don't want to be eaten. I really need to think about it because the food is on the other side. Up crawls the scorpion and says, I've got the secret. I'll jump on your back. We'll go across. I'll watch for the alligators and snakes. You navigate us across. We both win. The lizard says, what do you think? I fell off the truck yesterday? You out of your mind? You're a scorpion. If I put you on my back and I go across, you're going to sting me and I'll drown. The scorpion says, what do you think? I dropped off the truck yesterday? What do you think? I'm going to sting you halfway across and drown? Are you out of your mind? Lizard thinking says, you know what? Let's do it. And the scorpion jumps on his back. And halfway across the river, the scorpion stings him. And as they were drowning, the lizard looks up to him and says, why are you doing this to me? How could you possibly do it? And the scorpion says, what do you want from me? I'm a scorpion. I sting people. Get the scorpions out of your life. Have the courage to get negativity away from you and to drown it with positivity. And should you be faced in your lifetime with negativity, turn it into something positive. There's the story of the frogs. The frogs are hopping in the neighborhood in this forest. There's 10 of them. They're having a grand old time. Hopping, hopping, hopping. Things are great. Accidentally, unfortunately, terribly, 2 of them jump in a hole, a deep hole, a hole they cannot get out of. The 2 frogs are jumping, and quickly the other 8 frogs around looking down realize it is impossible. And they feel the pain, and they start screaming at these frogs, stop jumping. Stop jumping. This is killing us. We cannot watch you do this. Just allow yourself to die in peace. Stop jumping. And the one frog succumbs and passes away. The other frog, meanwhile, is jumping, and the frogs are waving their hands and screaming and yelling, it's negativity, and why are you doing this? And alas, miraculously, the frog jumps out and gets out. And the other frogs run up to him and they say, oh my God, how did you get out when you saw such negativity and we were screaming at you, and we were yelling at you and waving our hands and feet and jumping up and down? He says, I was deaf. I thought you were cheering for me. The way you look at things will govern the way you feel. And the way you feel will govern the way you act. And the way you act will be the govern of the way you live. Finally, have the courage to give, to make a difference in this world. As Ralph Waldo Emerson so neatly said, happiness is a perfume you cannot pour on yourself without getting it onto others. Think about the last time you were complimented. What'd that feel like? How about challenging yourself to compliment someone every single day? Remember the last time you made someone laugh? How'd that feel? Remember the last time you laughed? How'd that feel? You know, for each day of the past 29 years, I've done 2 things I'm quite proud of. Every day making someone laugh and doing something for someone or complimenting someone. I challenge you to do something similar. Today is a great day. This is good. It is truly the first day of the rest of your life. And remember, as we started, what you do will define you. Have the courage to secure your dreams, knowing that this courage is already inside you. Release it. Use your courage. Be rid of the scorpions and jump like the frog at life with a courageous, happy, fearless impatience with mediocrity. And you will surely succeed in ways that you never imagined and positively influence people at a profound level. You are true successes, and I am profoundly privileged to be around you. Thank you.
Scott, if you would mind coming back up here. We would like to present and bestow onto our speaker tonight an honorary City College degree, an honorary doctorate in law.